Coming up next. Stay tuned to learn more about the state of blockchain education at major universities all around the world. Reimagine 2020.
Hi guys, I'm Sandeep Nailwal from Matic Network. I'm co-founder and CEO at Matic Network, and I'm happy to be a part of Reimagine 2020.
Hey everybody, it is Patrick McLain, one of your hosts from Reimagine 2020. As you guys know, we are going 72 hours for this conference, right? We have a diverse group of speakers. The next one I'm excited for, I've heard a lot of really cool stuff about this project. I'm actually intrigued. I want to learn a lot from this conversation. And, I think for a lot of you, and especially again for the university community that's watching this, I think Matic does a lot to kind of, really foster and drive adoption through the developer community. So I think this is something you guys probably want to pay attention to. But before I butcher it, Sandeep, why don't you introduce yourself and maybe tell everybody a little bit about Matic?
Sure. So, I myself am from, programming background. I do, I'm also a computer science engineer, and, alongside my co-founders, JD and Anurag, we started Matic, at the end of around 2017, and, in around mid 2018, we officially set up our entities and all that. And, so JD specifically has been a part of the, the core Plasma group and the implementers group. At that time, Vitalik and Joseph Foon used to, kind of run Plasma kind of implementations. And so JD was one of the first guys who implemented Plasma MVP, which was like the third, iteration of Plasma. And we three joined hands, and we thought that there was few things that were not quite right with the way Plasma and the sidechains were structured, and we wanted to build a kind of a kind of sidechain and the kind of layer 2 architecture, which is more focused on developer adoption, as well as it had the vision to become a mass adopted blockchain. So we, being a layer 2 on top of Ethereum, we thought and we envisioned about having the scalability, which provides the best user experience for the developers, like the developer experience for the developers and the user experience for the end users, for the apps developers build. So that's the whole philosophy where Matic started. And, we are very grateful that we have reached a stage where we are we are one of the largest global projects, and being a layer 2 on Ethereum, there is already a huge wave of adoption that is coming for that's already happening on Matic. We are already one of the largest platform for building dApps and games, specifically in the games and VR worlds. Almost all the top platforms in the space, be it Decentraland, be it Somnium Space, Sandbox, they are either already have moved to Matic, in terms of their smart items, fast ratings and all that, or, many of them are exploring to be on Matic. So that's kind of a brief summary of it, and we can go deeper into the conversation.
Awesome. And I know there's probably a lot of things to unpack. This is probably going to be one of those calls where I'm going to want it to run longer, but I'll be sad to leave at the end. But, for everybody listening, like maybe a lot of people are aware of Matic, maybe not. And by the way, one question, did your guys' mainnet just launch?
Yeah, so we have started the mainnet launch process, which is starting from this 15th of May. And I think the mainnet will go live somewhere around 30th of May, the end of this month. Yeah.
Got it. So, can you just go back and I want to kind of pivot to the next few points, but like, can you just, for anybody listening, so again, maybe some people understand Matic, maybe they don't. And I think sometimes in the blockchain or cryptocurrency space, there's so many projects flying around that it gets easy to, kind of jumble them all together. Maybe people don't really understand why projects exist. Can you really distill it down? Like, why does Matic exist? Like, what excites you guys about Matic, right? Like, cut out, like, as many buzzwords as possible. Like, what are you guys going to do better than anyone else?
Yep. So basically, I mean, first of all, let's go to the problem. What problem we are trying to solve? The problem is the blockchains are, not scalable, and the dApps or games or any kind of application that is being built on top of blockchain, it's not user friendly because of the high transaction fees and the low throughput, as well as the high latency times. Like, for example, if you're using a dApp on Ethereum, it takes around 13 to 15 seconds for the transaction to get confirmed. And then, if you are lucky, you end up paying like, 10 to 20 cents. And if you are unlucky, you might have to pay like $1, even $1 for one particular transaction. So, so basically, where Matic comes into the game is that we are a layer 2 on top of on top of Ethereum as of now, and we can have more layer 1s, but Ethereum is our platform of choice, for being the first layer 1. So all the dApps and kind of the utility applications that we all want to see on blockchains, those are not possible on layer 1s, and we are a strong believers that that kind of scalability and mass adoption can come only via layer 2. The business activity should happen on layer 2, and layer 1s would be more like settlement chains, which is kind of the vision of the Bitcoin blockchain also. So they don't want to compromise on the layer 1 security and decentralization, while they believe that the larger kind of user activity can happen on layer 2. So similar to that, and there are a lot of layer 1 attempts also, like as you asked that why do you think that this is going to be better than others. So there are a lot of people who are trying to achieve scalability on layer 1. We feel that that's fundamentally not possible, and layer 1s will always be kind of slow, but they will definitely be more decentralized and more secure. So they will be always optimized for the larger value transactions. But any kind of blockchain use cases where we see large amount of users interacting with the blockchains, that has to happen on layer 2. So that's what is the basic premise of this. And on layer 2, we are already one of the leading platforms, not one of the, probably the leading platform in the space, which has a productionized production level ready blockchain with the final mainnet going live. We are on beta mainnet for last 3 to 4 months. And any developers, like, you can go around and ask teams like, and these are very good teams like Battle Racers, Decentral Games, and, Bad Bit Games. There are a lot of games, a lot of applications like that, Spring Roll, and they will tell you that how easy the developer experience is and how, it has enhanced the user experience of their applications. So that actually sets us apart. That it's very, very easy for the developers to quickly adopt, the scalability on Matic if they are already built on Ethereum or for that matter, any EVM chain. So that's one thing. And then apart from that, we are also evolving Matic into slowly, kind of a generalized layer 2 platform, which will offer more, things like, for example, POS side chains and plasma side chains that we are offering, like, hybrid POS plus plasma side chains. But apart from that, you would be able to use in future more layer 2 approaches like optimistic rollups, or maybe you can have private chains, you can have enterprise chains, all running as a part of a generalized layer 2. That is our vision, and that sets us apart in terms of our competition on, especially on the layer 2 side. Yeah.
Again, a lot to unpack there. I want to ask you about 1,000 questions. I'm trying to figure out how to do this in not that many minutes. All right, so I want to get a bit deeper into Matic here on the time that we have. But again, for all the students listening, right, and I think for part of this audience, right, is it safe to say you're technical, you're an engineer?
Yep.
Got
Absolutely.
it. So Can you tell everybody a little bit about like your journey? Like how would you, I'm guessing you were an engineer before you became a quote unquote blockchain engineer, right? But like, what was your journey kind of that brought you to blockchain? Like past experiences and what kind of excites you about it and excites you about Matic?
Yeah. So apart from being an engineer, I am also an entrepreneur. So I used to have a, B2B, startup, which was kind of a marketplace. You can think of it like Alibaba for, services projects, right? Alibaba is for manufactured goods and all that. So, I started that and, that was going well, but there was a lot of scalability issues with that. And I felt at one point that this is becoming, more and more a people centric, business. So I wanted to venture into something where, there is infinite leverage as Naval Ravikant, posts, describes it. So I, ventured into like artificial intelligence, and then, I had read something about blockchain. So I, thought that, okay, let me give it a shot at blockchains also. And I started reading Mastering Bitcoin. And that's when, I had the aha moment for blockchains. Like I was like, this is the next big thing and I want to be there. And then I started getting involved, more and more into community, started developing blockchain applications, initially started consulting a few projects, and definitely like, within my consulting itself, I, started building dApps and, various kind of protocols for my clients. And that's when, the problem of scalability on Ethereum was fairly evident for me, right? That this is not going to happen. This is not going to bring the adoption. And ETH 2.0, it's still like fairly, multiple years ahead of us. So we don't know that.
Hey, your audio just broke out.
How much part of it should I start right from the start?
No. There you go. It just for 1 second. I could hear that, but now I got you back now. Go ahead.
Yeah. So where should I repeat from? Yeah. So I was developing multiple solutions for my clients, and it included dApps, it included protocols, and different kind of stuff. And there I realized that the scalability on blockchains is going to be a very, very big problem. And I started exploring more such approaches. And then when I met when me and JD, who was my friend from the blockchain community itself in India, when we were discussing, and we were discussing the architecture of Matic, I realized that this could be one solution which can actually solve a lot of things and a lot of things for the developers, and they can build, mass adopted applications with this, which can be mass adopted in future. So that's what brought me into the, my current kind of situation. Yeah.
Got it. And you mentioned ETH 2.0, and I would like to get your thoughts there for a second, really about how you guys are thinking of that, right? And kind of, how you think that really impacts the future or impacts your decision making. But by the way, for the audience, where are you located right now, by the way? Hello?
Yep.
You got me? Hey, no, I was just saying for the audience, but somebody just brought up like in India. You're currently in India, yeah?
Yeah.
No, and so it's kind of side note. I was on the interview today with EV with Emergo India. We had a really interesting conversation, but just side note, like, how do you kind of view the blockchain community in India?
So it's a.
Anyways, I'll kick it back off. I just want to ask a few questions on your kind of perspective. But so no, I was having a conversation today with EV, like I think the CEO of Emergo Labs India, and they do a lot from the academia side and education side. What's your perspective like in the blockchain market in India?
So I think, see, the most important thing to understand here is that India is a software developers market, right? So we are like, India is considered to be the software factory of the world, and there are maybe the number of software developers in India might be more than the population of many countries, right? So that's kind of like so there are a lot of developers, and blockchain is primarily a different software development or how the software is developed, how the software interacts with its users kind of paradigm. So, definitely India becomes a large, market for the developers. And due to the large number of developers, there is a huge amount of interest from the developers. And many of those developers also, because of the speculative angle that we have in the blockchain industry, so they, interact and they get exposed to that. And apart from that, there is definitely a huge number of speculative kind of market, like the crypto kind of enthusiasts also over here. So over and all, it's like a huge, community. I would say, even like if you consider it from the only India perspective, the number of people would not be like very large compared to the percentage of population we have in India. But if you take that number and compare it with the global perspective, I think it's already one of the largest. Like it would be easily top 5 or top 3 kind of blockchain community worldwide. So many,
Well,
many.
I think especially when we look at like people saying, okay, Korea is big, right? Like South Korea is big, or right, like it's a kind of a question I have where I feel, yeah, well, right, like man, exactly, like at scale, it's not right. Like maybe in a speculative.
So Korea, basis the South Korea's population, they will be, percentage wise, there might be some more people. But if you see, and I've been to, South Korea multiple times, and mostly it's like one, like somebody was telling me, who was a crypto expert over there, that some particular part of the, Seoul, which is like around the Gangnam area, that's kind of the crypto hub, and all the, but they have large pockets. So of course their markets are very, big that sense. They used to be very big. Right now there is a lot of, control from the government. But in terms of
the numbers are relative, right? Like anyone can be big when in the beginning, So, but it's just an interesting point, right? Because I think sometimes, because I understand the same way. Like I've been in software for a long time, right? Like I know the powerhouse of India, right? Like the actual, like you just said, like it's at the end of the day, people might not realize it, but you guys are a powerhouse of developers, right? So, but I think the news cycle kind of frames the conversation as like a lot with the United States, how they're approaching it usually for regulatory stuff, maybe what Southeast Asia is doing, right? And I just think it's a really interesting point because I feel like, it's a lot of the news that I've read from India, or at least from my perspective, tends to be like maybe more regulation, sometimes maybe negative news, right? Like, oh, laws against cryptocurrency, things like that. And I'm good to get even perspective. I would bet if I go out 5 years, right, like India is going to be a key player in this. But next question, and I think about Matic, and we touched briefly as we kind of talk about developers and really how developers are thinking about it, right? Like, people, maybe developers who never touched blockchain, whether back end, front end, neural networks, etc., and kind of how they become developers, or how you guys are engaging current blockchain developers, or even I think Matic works with what we do with MouseBelt in the university program, really talking to students, again, the people listening on this call. Can you tell me a bit about how you guys engage the developer community, how important they are to you, how you feel like maybe you're approaching it differently, and maybe some success stories there?
Sure. So the kind of the biggest channel that we are using inside of let's say India and globally also is via hackathons. So we do a lot of hackathons, and Matic, I'm pretty sure that at least in blockchain space, nobody does more hackathons than Matic. I mean, by far. Like we last year might have done around 50 to 60 hackathons over the year. That's like a huge number, 5 hackathons a month, because we collaborate with a lot of partners. And in India, it's like the name, if you go to engineering colleges, the name of Matic Network is very ubiquitous, especially in the context of blockchain and blockchain development. And now we are seeing early telltale signs of that, like all the talented people who are interested in blockchains, they want to, reach out to us. They want to see that whether they can have a working opportunity with Matic and all that. So that's a very heartwarming thing for us. Apart from the hackathons, we also have a developer support program where we, have allocated $2 million for, supporting the developers. We give them like small grants, where using those grants, they can, they can actually build their MVPs and take it out at the market. We also help them to connect with the investors and, market their product, get initial users, get feedback, and evolve their applications. And then, on the global scale also, we are, very close partners with ETH Global. We do a lot of hackathons at Gitcoin. And, we are also coming up with large scale, university programs, as well as the, developer incentivization program. Like, people, specifically the people who are building these apps or dApps, and they want to build them into businesses, right? So for those, we are going to bring up some very big, large scale global programs very, very soon. Yeah, and more on that, very soon. Yeah.
And for the university students listening, and I guess for anybody who's kind of a developer or really looking for a project to latch onto, what would be some ways that they might be able to hook into Matic? I know you mentioned hackathons, but where would you direct them specifically?
Yeah. So in terms of the university developers, I would say that first thing that they should start doing is that the first blockchain for everyone is mostly Ethereum. And once you go and build on Ethereum, you realize that, okay, it works fine on the testnet. When you take it on the mainnet, it's very costly, hard to get users. Then you can start exploring layer 2 solutions, and when Matic could be a candidate, and then you can deploy your application on Matic. It's like exactly, so we say one thing, that if you are an Ethereum developer, you're already a Matic developer. 100% of your anything that you do on on Ethereum works exactly the same with Matic also. And also, like, all the kind of developer tooling, everything that you use, that from the applications to anything else, all of those things work out of the box. So you don't need to do anything extra at all, right? So that's why I use the line that if you are an Ethereum developer, you are already a Matic developer. So that's one of the most important things. So understand and learn more about Ethereum, and then you already are learning about Matic. And as I said, 99.99% everything is same. And then apart from that, I would also say that if the next step would be to participate in hackathons. Go to sites like DevFolio, 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 which is a hackathon site. We do a monthly hackathon over there. Go to maybe Gitcoin. We are going to do monthly hackathon with Gitcoin also. And you can participate in any of the other hackathons that we do. That's one thing. You can also be a part of our developer community on Discord. You can find those links very easily if you go to our site. Be a part of our community, and if you are building anything interesting which you think can be evolved into a business, do reach out to us. My full name. I'm available on Telegram. My full name is @Sandeep Nailwal. Just give me a ping. Tell me about your idea, and we can maybe fund you with a grant, and you can build an MVP and take it to your users, and kick off your journey from there. So yeah, those will be few areas I would tell them. And also, yeah, one more thing, that we are also launching a global university program. So many of you guys would also see some of your ambassadors or your university ambassadors around you very soon. And if you want to be a university ambassador, please reach out to me again on Telegram @Sandeep Nailwal. My full name without any changes, anything. Ping me on Telegram and join us as an ambassador if you want.
Awesome. And all those links will be in this video. So again, for the thousands of students that we know are watching this, right? Like, these are the conversations you need to be listening to. Like, I've come to find that, we have the Education Alliance through MouseBelt, where we brought partners on like Matic, etc. I've got a chance to kind of sit back and see who cares more, who talks a lot, and who doesn't, or who actually doesn't deliver, who does, right? So I can vouch and tell you that like Matic is trying to engage the developer community, right? So listen to what's being said here, right? Like, go look into these hackathons, go look into the grants, right? If you're looking to build something innovative, if you want to understand how to kind of go down your development path, maybe you want to first get into blockchain projects, maybe you've been in it for a while and want to ramp up quickly, it sounds like what Matic is doing is kind of putting those resources at the forefront for you. So we only have about I think 6 minutes here, so I want to hit on the last few points. At the end, I want to kind of get your thoughts and really speak to the developer, or not the developer, but the university audience here, and give them some of your opinions about, how you would approach it if you could go back in time. But before we go there, real quick, you mentioned Ethereum and earlier Ethereum 2.0. Can you give me your take on, how you guys are looking at Ethereum 2.0 and how you expect it to affect Matic as a company, especially as the base layer, right, gets more scalable or becomes more scalable?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So first of all, about E 2.0, I think although the development and the coordination efforts within the community are going on well within E2 community, but it's still far away because Ethereum is already a multi-billion dollar blockchain, and there are like large scale applications, especially DeFi applications deployed on Ethereum, and it's not going to be very easy path in terms of migrating them from an existing this thing to a ETH 2.0 kind of ecosystem. So it's going to be a long drawn process, plus the basic architecture itself, where you have a sharding and then multiple shards are talking to each other, and cross chain communications, how the beacon chain is going to manage the management of various shards, how the validators are going to be allocated, and all that. All of this is a very complicated software, and that too has to run in a very decentralized and distributed setting, right? So it's the complexity is could be one of the most complex solutions or most complex softwares that's being built worldwide. So I would say that it is going to take a lot of time. Even the phase zero today only I was reading from Vitalik's comment only, that he said that he was agreeing that the phase zero cannot come by the before the end of this year, which is phase zero is actually nothing but a preparatory mode where you can lock your ether, and then maybe there will be a shard which might not have any transactions at all, but there might be a shard which will be producing empty blocks, and you can simply lock your ethers and become a validator on ETH 2.0's first shard, and earn some staking tokens. So that's not even the first step. I would say that's a phase. That's why it's phase zero, right? So it's still far away. It is going to take a lot of time for ETH 2.0 to come. Your second question, why how ETH 2.0 can affect let's say layer 2 solution. So as I said that my earlier thesis that we believe that any layer 2, any layer 1, no matter how scalable it is, it will still not be enough to cater to all the applications and business, and it will be more like a settlement layer, and the business activity will need to happen on the layer 2. So for example, take ETH 2.0, even if it has, let's say, 64 shards, it's expected to have 64 shards. Each shard is like existing Ethereum chain, right? Because it has to have at least 64 to 100 validators, and they need to sync between the blocks between them. So the TPS on each shard would be like maybe 5x or maybe 10x from here, so maybe 100 TPS for each shard, and overall 6400 TPS. Even that is not enough when we are talking about Ethereum, which we expect to be the global computer. So layer 2, the moment the supply of these TPS and this throughput increases, within 6 months, we'll see that there will be a large number of applications deployed. They will start using the network bandwidth a lot, and then we'll go back to the same situation that the chain is clogged. Even though the transaction fees might not be 20 cents for now, but even if it goes to 5 cents, it's still untenable for any kind of legitimate application to build on top of it. So that's why we believe that even if ETH 2.0 comes, it's going to take multiple years, but whenever it comes, you will still need layer 2. And then the good thing for us is that when the layer 1 becomes more scalable, our layer 2 becomes even more scalable, because ours is a pure layer 2. We are staking, our fraud proofs and everything happens on Ethereum main chain. The checkpoint happens on Ethereum main chain, so that will give us more scalability to us. And as I said, that the business activity should happen on layer 2, and that should mean that we should get more applications building on top of our layer 2 platform.
Sandeep Nailwal. For everybody listening, go check out Matic. I'm telling you, like, I've heard a lot of good stuff about this project, right? So developers, students, anyone really curious about blockchain, right? And kind of the different sets of infrastructure that is kind of being put in place right now, right? We'll look back 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now and see that I think probably projects like Matic, maybe a few others, kind of what was getting built now, right, is kind of laying the groundwork for what we're going to be doing 2 years ago, right? And so it's important that we understand it quickly, that we try to adopt it, give feedback, help the communities, etc. Right? So depending on, many people have different tastes, depending on what your flavor is. I think for a lot of people, Matic would be interesting. So I knew it. We have about 2 minutes here. I could probably talk for about another hour and go just deep dive into everything. But first off, it was very nice to talk with you. And in the last minute or two here, if you could go back in time, if you're at school today and you're a 19, 20, 20-year-old kid at college, you're looking at blockchain, you're interested, you're an engineering major or you're in law or whatever, what advice would you give them? Like, how would you tell the students listening right now to think about blockchain?
I would say, leave everything and then, jump right head on into this field, because this field is going to be one of the biggest areas or one of the biggest pockets of technology, especially with this COVID situation. And then, nobody now trusts institutions, governments, the way we human beings organize. Blockchain is a fundamental don't think of blockchain as a technology. Blockchain is a fundamental way how human beings organize. I would say that if you are in 2020 in college, try to find out that what all pockets of human organization you can solve via blockchains, you can optimize via blockchains, and you will be a winner in the coming times. And also think many of the, especially I'm talking to the entrepreneurial mindset university people, that the earlier thought of an enterprise that where you build a startup, you raise some funding and keep raising money, reach a particular kind of scale and then do an IPO and all that, all those business models might not be applicable in future, wherein there might not be a centralized application or centralized kind of startup. It might be a situation where many of these large scale startups 10 years from now might be run by communities rather than some single individual contributors. So that's the future we are looking at. And if you guys don't know, read more about DeFi, compare it with how it kind of complements and competes also with the existing kind of banking ecosystem or the financial ecosystem of the world, and you would realize that what we are looking at. And this can be a complete overhaul of the way business is done, the way humans organize, the way governance is done. Find your pocket and be a giant in the coming decade.
Well said. All right, everybody. We're going for 72 hours, right? Like, these are the kind of conversations we want to have. We've touched on legal, from investors, projects like Matic, tons of university students, professors, journalists, and I think we're having a very elevated conversation, right? And we hope everybody's enjoying it. But before we run to the next interview, Sandeep, I just want to say it was very nice having you, and hope to talk soon. And we're gonna try to send all the students your way. Kids, if you're sitting at home, your school's closed, you have nothing to do right now, you're stuck in quarantine, go to Matic, check out their documentation, see if there's a grant or a hackathon you want to attend. But Sandeep, it was very nice speaking with you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And I'm so excited for Reimagine 2020. Thank you so much for inviting me here. And thanks to the MouseBelt team also. Thank you so much.
Have a great one.
You're tuned in to Reimagine 2020. Stay tuned to learn more about the state-of-the-art in blockchain education and technological development all around the world. Reimagine 2020.